Thank you for coming to honor Ethan's life and his legacy here. I want to encourage you all. We are a family here, and I'm so thankful you all come together to grieve. And I want to encourage you all to do that as healthcare providers. We're professional stuffers. You know, we are really good at pushing stuff down, and I do want to encourage you to really grieve this loss and celebrate his life. And the thing that keeps coming to mind for me with Ethan is his legacy of joy and gratitude that he's left us. So that's all I'm going to say, and I'm going to give the stage to Dr. Ted O'Connell, who will lead things tonight.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Kaiser Permanente family and our family medicine residency program, we wish to welcome you all here this evening to celebrate and to mourn together Ethan Seller's life. We have some special guests here this evening: Ethan's significant other, Van, Ethan's brother, Jordan, and Ethan's parents, Lori and Bill. So we want to welcome you with open arms and big hugs on behalf of Ethan. We hope that in talking about Ethan and celebrating him, you will see, you already know, but it's nice to hear it from an external source, what a profound impact your son has had on everybody, on this community, on his patients, on our residents, on our faculty, on the staff. One of the hospital physicians just came over and whispered in my ear and said, "Isn't this an amazing testament that in just the course of 3 years here as a resident, that somebody could affect so many different departments?" And we have people here from really, I think, every department in this hospital, and some of his patients who are here to join us. So we really thank all of you for being here. In talking about Ethan, I'm not going to go on too long, but there are really three kind of aspects to his person and who he is and his personality that I was hoping to talk about. One is who he is as a family person. One is who he is as a friend, and one who he is as a doctor. And there are many other aspects of Ethan Sellers, but those in my mind are the ones that really came as I was thinking about what I was going to say here. Ethan was a shining star. He just came in like a bolt of lightning, huge personality, the biggest heart you could possibly imagine, and there's something about his approach to life and his approach to friendships and relationships that just wrapped him around all of our hearts, and that's why we're here. He's truly, truly incredible. Starting with who he is as a family person, Van as his significant other, Jordan, Lori, Bill. I can't tell you how often he talked about all of you. Mike Mason just told me how he used to call Bill from the hospital office and get other people on the phone call to celebrate a birthday by phone. And he was so excited to have all of you out here for graduation just over a week ago. He was talking about it nonstop, wanting his family here to get to know all of his Pennsylvania family and everybody to get together and know one another. And it's been a 3-year process of just hearing about all of you. And I can tell you, we were all really excited to get to meet you. You've lived up to expectations, so that's great. But family was really everything to Ethan. On the friendship side, I think I've already touched on it. He had a way with people where everybody was his friend. He just was completely open wore his emotions on his sleeve, wasn't afraid to tell you he loved you, wasn't afraid to call you on your garbage. And really he treated the world like everybody was his friends, and everybody responded to that. And as I looked at it, he used to say to our faculty, I want to live up to your expectations of me. I want to be like you when I grow up. I see how you are as a doctor, and I want to do that. And I looked at Ethan and said, I wish I could be like Ethan. He just exuded life and warmth and personality and friendship. And I think a lot of us looked at that and wished we all could be a little bit more like Ethan. And then on the doctor side of things, from the moment Ethan stepped foot on campus, it was clear that he had an extraordinary gift of empathy and of being able to connect with patients. You know, we took the time and helped teach him the medicine part, but there was no teaching his bedside manner and his skills with patients. He was able to have difficult conversations with multiple family members and come out of tense situations with everybody hugging one another and feeling good about it. He was able to have end-of-life discussions with patients that I aspire to be able to communicate with people the way Ethan was able to do that, and he was able to do it right from the start and continued it on through his residency and just demonstrated the skill over and over again, and has been really an outstanding physician. Some of our faculty were talking about, you know, the last few months that he was in residency with us and how easy it was to have him as a resident because he could just do everything right, and it was kind of on autopilot, and it was just beautiful to see that development over the course of 3 years. My daughter Claire, on Friday, when I told my family about what had happened to Ethan, almost made it, asked me how long medical training is from the time you start high school, and I explained 4 years of high school and 4 years of college and 4 years of medical school and then 3 or more years of residency, depending what type of residency you pursue. And she said, so Ethan did all that and he didn't get to do what he wanted to do. And I said, at the moment, I said, yes, and that's really sad. But then as I thought about it over the next couple of days, Ethan really was doing what he wanted to do all along, and that's the beauty of it. He demonstrated that to us. I never saw a moment where it didn't seem like he was doing everything exactly the way he wanted to be doing it. And so, you know, the thought that he didn't get to do what he wanted to do, it makes me feel better knowing that he was doing what he wanted to do. The last thing I want to kind of comment on is Ethan was going to be a palliative care physician. He was headed off to UC Davis to do a year-long fellowship in hospice and palliative care, and I think all of us felt that he had found the perfect place for him. And I have no doubt that he was going to be an absolutely amazing palliative care physician. And I think that's one of among the many things, but that's one of the things that I am having such a hard time kind of coming to grips with. Because I keep thinking of the countless future patients of his who, in their most difficult times, darkest moments of their lives, when they could use somebody like Ethan as their doctor, they're not going to get that. To me, that's sad. So I don't know that there's an answer. Well, there's no answer to that. It's a bummer for the world. I just wanted to close by reading. We have our our team in Honduras, our senior residents and several of our faculty, we go there at least once a year to do some great global health work. And we've managed to Skype them in thanks to our wonderful IT team. And earlier in the day, I was talking with Matt Simquick, who's our associate program director. And for the team there, he actually read the letter of recommendation that he wrote for Ethan for his palliative care fellowship. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I was going to do the same thing. So if you'll bear with me for another minute or two, I want to share the letter that I wrote almost exactly a year ago on Ethan's behalf. So it says, "Dear colleague, I'm happy to write this letter on behalf of Dr. Ethan Sellers in support of his application to your hospice and palliative care medicine fellowship program. I have known Ethan professionally for 2+ years in my role as the program director for our family medicine residency program. During that time, I have worked directly with Ethan in both the inpatient and outpatient settings and have also followed the details of his professional and academic development as a member of our residency's clinical competency committee. I will summarize the details of this letter of recommendation by telling you that Ethan has the compassion, empathy, interpersonal skills, and enthusiasm to make an outstanding hospice and palliative care fellow. I have personally witnessed his consistent ability to connect with people and forge strong personal bonds with countless inpatients and their family members, even under the most trying of circumstances. Ethan has a unique ability to get to the heart of difficult conversations and do so in a way that develops therapeutic relationships. During his time with us, Ethan has developed into a competent and confident physician. Ethan has worked diligently to develop his knowledge base and clinical skills, always doing so with a great attitude. Ethan is an energetic leader who relates to and clearly communicates with patients, ancillary staff, and colleagues. Put simply, he always makes his teams better through his proactive and positive approach to any situation. When writing letters of recommendation, I often like to look at a resident's rotation evaluations and include representative comments. In Ethan's case, this was easy because of the consistency of the evaluations we have received about his performance. Representative comments include, Ethan is able to form great and therapeutic alliances with his patients. He really spends the time to get to know them and thinks about all aspects of their medical care. He has a great fund of medical knowledge, understands the disease processes, and is able to articulate this during patient family-centered rounds. Ethan is very comfortable with patients, and he exhibits patience and great capacity to connect with patients. He's empathetic and genuine with his patients. His particular strengths are his positive attitude, his relationships with staff, his bedside manner, and his excellent sign-outs regarding the status of the team's patients. Ethan brings tremendous positivity and compassion for his patients and colleagues with him to the clinic each day. In my 13 years as program director, I cannot recall another resident who is so well suited to the role of hospice and palliative care physician. I give Dr. Ethan Sellers my enthusiastic recommendation regarding his application for your fellowship program. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. So with that, I will conclude. Thank you for your time and attention, and I will turn the microphone over to I should look at the program. I thought it was Kathy. To Dr. Kathy Holder.
Ethan Sellers was a man of big, warm, comforting hugs. And I'm going to actually go off script. If you had a hug from Ethan, raise your hand. Look at this. He was a man of caring, thoughtful, compassionate words. Ethan loved words, whether they were in the form of poems or literature. And in fact, he was a very active participant with many insightful wisdom words in our literature and medicine group. We actually met as a literature and medicine group every month at a house of the faculty, and we would get together and we would share poems and literature and use them as vehicles to discuss some of the dilemmas that we faced as healers in medicine. In honor of Ethan, I would like to share a few words and excerpts from some of the literature and medicine readings, contemporary, biblical, and mythological. And the words I want to honor Ethan with are comfort, peace, and hope. The word comfort. In the book Cutting for Stone by Abraham Gazy, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with his writings, he asks the question, what treatment in a time of crisis is administered by ear? Words of comfort. Ethan was a physician who never hesitated to share words of comfort with his colleagues and his patients, and that led him to seek a palliative care fellowship. Ethan radiated comfort, he radiated peace. The word peace. The Christian Bible says, there is a peace which surpasses all understanding. And I'm struggling right now with that peace as I reflect on Ethan's tragic death, a life cut too short. But I know that Ethan would want us to be at peace, knowing how much he contributed and how many lives he touched in the brief time given him. The word hope. In Greek mythology, Pandora was given a box, and in that box was filled with all the ills and evils of the world. And when Pandora unexpectedly opens up that box, she releases all the curses onto mankind. And Pandora quickly closes that box. There's one thing left at the bottom of that box, and that was hope. Ethan pursued his life filled with hope and optimism, and he would want us to carry on that hope. And in our most recent literature and medicine evening, with Ethan present and with some faculty and residents, we read a short story by Hemingway called A Clean, Well-Lighted Place. And Ethan told me, he shared with me that he had read it numerous times because it resonated so well with him. In the story, the narrator reflects on a cafe in Paris where a lonely, elderly man sits by himself in the wee hours of the night nursing a drink. And the man says, "This is a clean and pleasant cafe. It is well lighted, and the light is very good." Ethan was a light of joy, a light of warmth, a light of comfort, a light of peace, and a light of hope. And we must all remember Ethan in that light and carry on that hope. Thank you, Bill and Lori and Van and Jordan, for sharing with us the wonderful, beautiful person that Ethan was and will always be in our hearts. We will be forever grateful.
Dr. Simquick could not be here this evening because he's in Honduras, so I'll be speaking his words on his behalf. Dr. Simquick writes, "When Ethan entered our lives at KP Vallejo just a little over 3 years ago, we all noticed immediately. As faculty, we began to discuss Ethan and his hugs very early on. Were they a little creepy? Were patients going to be offended? What about staff and colleagues? The answer, of course, was no, no, and no. Ethan gave everyone his deep, sincere, curious, fun, reflective, and thoughtful love. He lightened every room with his smile, laughter, and wisdom. I deeply enjoyed teaching him family medicine. He loved his patients. He loved to learn. He loved to grow passionately and relentlessly, nearer to his own best self. Finally, he loved me and all his friends. Dr. Simquick writes, I am so saddened by this loss and offer my wholly inadequate condolence to his family, to Van, to Lori, his mom, Bill, his dad, and his brother, Jordan. Ethan was so full of life and continues to live, and will continue to live in so many ways. We share stories, we share laughter, so much laughter together. We share tears. To me, and I have heard from many others, Ethan is life and love. He loved life and lived love. I truly mean that. Ethan frequently hugged, then said, I love you. No, seriously, I mean that. He did mean it. I will never forget. I will never forget making late rounds on a dying patient only to find Ethan already there. He was holding 3 hands, patient, daughter, and other daughter. I joined. He smiled and consoled. We all laughed a little. An hour or more later, the woman, our patient, died. I reminded him what to do with the death pronouncement. He reminded me what it is to be a healer. We stayed for hours and listened to stories of our patients, strong, resilient, advocate lover. She meant the world to her daughters. In that instant, she meant the world to Ethan, and that consoled them beyond words. Dr. Simquick goes on to write, I will never forget the humanistic, humble way he doctored and how intensely curious and analytical he was with family medicine at the same. Hi, friend. I have the whole team here with me. I'd like to introduce you to Hug. Hi, friend. How have you been? How is Mrs.? Dr. Simquick, I'm really worried about my patient. Can I talk with you about her? I've been reading, and I think this might be something else. He loved his patients, and Ethan's love was not selfish. Here's the thing, Dr. Simquick. He tells me that the only time he has joy is when he has a beer and a cigarette with his wife. I don't think that's necessarily bad. That's what he would say. Over the last few days, we have shared many times with Ethan. Loved others so deeply, so humbly. I think so purely. I'm reminded of a line C.S. Lewis wrote that I think helps. Love is not an affectionate feeling, but a steady wish for the loved person's ultimate good as far as it can be obtained. Ethan earnestly and humbly wanted to be his best self, and for us to be our best selves. I was in Honduras when I learned of his death. The last time I was here with him. It was one of the many times he was, to me, his best self. Laughing, bounding, holding and hugging, looking deeply into his patient's eyes, performing, playing, reflecting, asking questions. I read his blog from July 9th, 2018, 1 full year from today, and I can't believe he's gone. This really hurts, and I miss him. I love you, Ethan. No, seriously, I meant that. That's from Dr. Simquick.
Hi, I'm Chloe Marchand. I'm one of Ethan's co-residents and office mates. I'm up here with the Kelseys, our other co-residents. I have a message from Sarah Petrie, who could not be here, who is our third office mate, and she wanted to say this. Ethan, It has been a great privilege. She's chosen to write this to Ethan rather than about Ethan. So, Ethan, it has been a great privilege to work and play alongside you over the past 3 years. I still have very fond memories of the day we met, a few weeks before residency began. You and Van came over with the intention of having a quick meet and greet, which turned into well over 6 hours of talking, laughing, maybe a little wine drinking, and a whole lot of playing Frisbee. I've been fortunate to call you a friend since that day, and I miss you terribly. Matt, Isla, Lucas, and I have been talking about how we can best honor your memory. They all think we need to have more pool parties and play more Frisbee. At this moment, we are in Maui, most likely playing in the pool with our new light-up Frisbees. I've also been thinking of how I can take all I've learned from you to make me a better physician, so I've decided to make a conscious effort to spend a few extra minutes with each patient, just getting to know them better, even when I'm feeling rushed. This will surely take some practice, but you are worth it. The day after graduation, we spoke on the phone for the last time. Our last words to each other were, "Love you, Pete," and "Love you, Smellers." And I'm so thankful that those words were said. Once again, I love you, Smellers. Sarah. So, Ethan was an amazing person. I had the honor of being his friend, his office mate, his co-resident, a bond that is deeper than just friendship, as we kind of shared the journey of becoming healers together. Although, as it has been said many times, Ethan, I think, was born a healer. He didn't need much teaching. It was a journey that was at times challenging, but a journey that Ethan always faced with love, compassion, and caring. As many of you may know or not, Ethan was a gardener. He helped us plant and nurture all the succulents that we sold for our Earth Day fundraiser for Honduras. He was a poet and a beautiful writer, a healer, and someone who could witness others' pain and suffering and lighten their load. And Ethan lived in the present. I was missing him a lot yesterday, and I was reading some of his dot phrases, which, for those of you who don't work here, are phrases you can kind of share online through the electronic medical record system. He gave me lots of his dot phrases. I just wanted to hear his voice again, and I came across one that he had written kind of to document the spiritual discussions he was having with patients that you often have in palliative care, and it really comforted me, so I wanted to share it with you. He wrote the following: "So when I told Mr. and Mrs. Blank about my personal belief that there is an afterlife, though I don't know what it looks like, but I believe that we are with those we love who passed before us, and are allowed time to watch over and be with those we love who remain on earth and have not yet joined us in the afterlife." So Ethan, I'm so sad that you're not physically with us to be here to hug me. And every time I think about you, all I can remember is the love that I felt from you and the feeling of getting hugged. So I'm going to continue to strive to share that love with other people. And as each day passes, I'm going to continue to remember all the joy and love that Ethan lived every day and brought to the world.
So I'm going to read a journal entry I wrote about this. Ethan Sellers died last week, just 4 nights after graduation, a celebration filled with joy, family, and love. I was shocked when Christy told me over the phone. We had just seen him days earlier. It didn't feel real. It gave me a deeper understanding of the numerous times I'd heard families say, "This feels like a dream. I feel like I'm gonna wake up," when a loved one died suddenly. It's starting to feel a little bit more real. After I found out, I did a yoga practice on the grass overlooking the ocean, and I dedicated this practice to him as I flowed from moon salutations into sun salutations into tree pose, where I honored the soft strength of the trees swaying and dancing all around me. I simultaneously smiled and cried as I saw and felt Ethan's spirit in the trees. He's part of all the trees. The expansive love and support guides and inspires me. We're all shocked, we're all devastated, we're all processing individually and together. Ethan's love truly lives on in all of us, and I can feel that so strongly. He was one of the most loving people I've ever met, and I can only imagine how many others would say the same. What a being, what a spirit. There's a tendency to yearn for the hopes and future that will never manifest. A partner, a friend, a son, a brother, a colleague, a writer, a poet, a lover, a palliative care physician. No, he will not live on to be those things in the physical human form. What's so amazing is the impact he did have during his 29 years and the impact he'll continue to have. He radiated love and kindness. He made people smile and laugh. He brought joy. We shared a close relationship, and he was always there for me. I hope he died knowing we're all here for him and love him infinitely too. For the most part, I believe things happen for a reason, and that it's up to us to explore and determine those reasons and choose to grow and be better and more loving because of them. There's no good reason why Ethan died so young. It's tragic. I do know that his bright, loving spirit will live on. He will be with me as I sit with and see people suffering as I journey with them at the end of life. His death happened at the start of my palliative care journey, one we were supposed to share together. I will experience the pain of loss that my patients feel. I will be more compassionate, loving, and kind because of him. I will honor him in this calling to palliative care that we both share. I will forever feel his love, and I will be more loving because of it. I will better care for my patients and their families because I knew him. Ethan, you died too soon. I hope you know how many people's souls you touched and how we all love you. Know that I can still feel you. You're no longer with us in the physical form, but your spirit lives on. I can feel it. It's everywhere.
Okay, so I've been asked to share 2 notes from Sarah Petrie's kids who are in Hawaii with her. Dear Ethan, the past 3 years have been wonderful. Sadly, I will miss all the fun parties we could have had, but hopefully we can have parties in honor of you. I hope you have a good time. XO, Isla. And from Lucas, dear Ethan, you are a great friend and we are lucky to have you. Love, Lucas.
Hello everyone, Lori, Bill, Jordan, everyone here. My name is Mitch Houston, a friend and colleague of Ethan. I have the heaviest heart I remember feeling. It has been so challenging these last few days to clarify my thoughts and feelings about losing a colleague and friend of such abundant caring, generosity, and humor. Over the last 3 years, I've had the privilege of being part of the resident training and getting to know Ethan. I want to tell funny anecdotes that exemplify the cleverness and purpose of a person who is able to see so many sides of a problem and effectively bring his teasing wit and skill to improve its outcome. But I cannot think of anything funny today. Instead, I will offer my thoughts about Ethan. Perhaps more of a letter of recommendation, although I don't think where Ethan is, he needs any introduction at all. He was remarkably open and accepting. Whatever someone brought, it seemed he could make it feel normal. He was funny and disarming. He was curious and willing to help. Perhaps Ethan felt nothing bad could ever happen because he was so gifted at helping to make the bad that is happening better. It is a rare thing that someone can transcend the petty and bitter and live in the delight and hopefulness that is also present in the moments of our daily lives. So many laughs, a great grasp of the irreverent, so many stories about the people he cared about. He would talk about a patient and was easily able to relate with their story. Watching him laugh at himself or tease his classmates was great fun. Living is so many different things, it would be foolish to think you could distill its nature. But once I was told its purpose was to love and to be loved. Ethan was so very loved, and so many felt his love. People both take and leave who they are when they leave us. We can no longer see them, but we can feel them forever. It is no longer what could be, but what is and was. We are all better to have had Ethan Sellers in our lives.
So good evening, everybody. I am Ethan's mom. My name is Laurie. This is Ethan's dad. His name is Bill. And I think before we share just a few words with you, we just need to tell you that the love and the compassion and the warmth and kindness, the outpouring we have received from so many people here has really been what has pulled us through. We are about 2,700 miles away from home, and our family there is grieving immensely. And they have all said to us, we just want to be there to hold you, to hug you, to talk to you. And I said, I appreciate that, but they have it covered here in Vallejo. You guys have that fully. And for Dr. O'Connell, we spoke the other day, and I said, Ethan would really want something here, but we're overwhelmed, and we really just don't know what to do. And he said, if you allow me, I'll take care of it. And Ted, from the bottom of our hearts, we cannot thank you enough for allowing this. I have to say, I have this whole script too, but just looking out and seeing the sea of faces here, Ethan absolutely loved this place, this community, the people, the doctors, the nurses, the MAs, the patients, the entire staff. He loved this place. And if he said to us once, I bet we heard 1,000 times, Mom, these are my people. This is where I need to be. This is where I belong. When I was like, you are 3,000 miles away, but this is where I need to be. And now, being among you from last Friday night, celebrating a graduation, and being among you now for this very different occasion, I can still see why he wanted to be here and why this was his place. Everyone that has spoken before, I don't need to tell you the kind of person Ethan was. You guys all know that. Humble, compassionate, funny. I lived many years in a household with 3 guys, believe me. The guy humor and the funny, yes. I heard it all, but not all. Hopefully not. But the one thing I did want to share, and the one thing, and surprisingly, I am not a public speaker at all, so I know Ethan is with me tonight because I could not otherwise be up here. We, on Sunday, we had a lovely brunch following graduation, and afterwards, Ethan and I went back to their place in Walnut Creek, and we were packing up the last of the stuff, and Van took some stuff and went one way, and we took a truckload of stuff and went another way. One of those places was Kelsey, where we dropped off a huge planter. But man, Ethan wanted those plants taken care of, and Kelsey was willing to do that. But needless to say, on the long day of driving back up to our place in Davis, we were talking. I brought up the fact that although I knew palliative care was Ethan's passion, I was a little concerned as his mom about him going into that, simply because if you know Ethan, you know he does wear his emotions on his sleeve and he is tender-hearted. And I was really concerned that after dealing with that day in and day out in such an intimate way, and knowing the way Ethan is, it would have been intimate and it would have been very personal. I was worried about him and about his psyche and how he was going to be able to handle that, and if that was going to burn him out even that much faster. And I was driving, and he turned to me in his seat, as he often did, and kind of faced me, and he said, "You know, Mom," he said, I know what you mean, and I know what you're saying," but he said, "I don't see death that way." And he used me as an example that night, and he said, "You know, when you die," he said, "I am going to miss you deeply," and he said, "I am going to be saddened," and he said, "My life will be forever changed," but he said, "You're never really going to be gone." He said, "You're going to be here." He said, "As long as there are people who love us and who we love, and as long as we have shared memories and shared experiences," he said, "we're never gone." He said, "Our soul and our essence lives on with those people who remember us and who love us." And he said, "That is what I believe." And he said, "I think that's what you need to believe." And I thought, oh my Lord, this kid's 29 and he has this whole thing figured out. And it completely, in the moment, kind of changed the way I viewed it. And then just these few short days later, I thought, there was a reason for that conversation, because that wasn't really how all our conversations were. And I know we had that conversation specifically for this event. So as a few people ahead of me have said, Ethan is gone from the earth. And his words were, "Our bodies are simply a mortal container. They're not us." And I think what we need to remember, look around you, we need to remember his smile. We need to remember the hugs. We need to remember the stories he shared, the laughter that we all had together. And you will always, always have Ethan with you in your hearts. So that would be our wish for you tonight. And I thank you very much for being who you were to Ethan, because it meant the world to him. And Dr. O'Connell, his goals, that was another thing he said, to your point, his goals were met. He said to me, "Mom, I don't have too many more goals. Palliative will be great," but he said, "I've been doing exactly what I wanted to do." And I think that's an awesome, awesome statement. And that makes me so happy and so proud of this group of people for allowing him to do that and for accepting him the way he was, because he was a little out there sometimes. But just embracing him as he embraced you, because you certainly did. And it meant the world to us and to him.
So the strongest woman in the world. So she's strong, and I've been the blubbering fool for the last few days, and I'm not going to do that now. When we were trying to decide, could we stand up and speak and do this, Lori said, "I'll figure out a way," and I said, "I'm not sure." But then I wanted to, and I said, "But I don't want to just say all the things I know everybody's going to say about Ethan," because I knew exactly what you were going to say, because I know it. So we said, well, maybe what people need to know is, how did Ethan become Ethan? And we'd like to think we had a part in it. And I think we did. I think his brother and his mother and I put together a family that really, really nourished each other. In fact, one of the things I started to write, and it's not even in it, but Ethan is our family perpetual motion. He was the endless well of energy, enthusiasm, and positivity. There was not 1 second of his life that he would want wasted without doing something. You could never rest with Ethan. You were either going to do something fun, meaningful, experimental, friendship building, or family nourishing. He was energy. But, what we knew about Ethan early on was that helping others would somehow be his life calling. Early on, we didn't know how. We didn't know how it would manifest itself, but we knew it. He was never really a me person, except if you ask his brother, he'd probably say, no, I saw a little bit of me, Ethan, but he was really never a me person. He always focused first on the needs and the wants and the comfort of others. We often said that Ethan was born an old soul, and he really was. From his earliest days, the things he would say, the insights he would have, the way that he would just interact with people, we said, how does that come from a kid who can hardly walk? And as he started to grow, you could see him developing his spirituality. And it started to come much sooner in his life than you would think somebody his age that it should come to. He started to develop this kind of early, and early on he started to say, I think I want to be a pastor. I think I want to be in the career of ministry. And we said, oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense for this kid. And then all of a sudden, he had his first biology class, his first anatomy classes. I would come home from work and I would see he and his mother sitting on the couch going through her helmet. For those who don't know, that's worms, right? Parasites, because Laurie's a biochemist. And they would be sitting there looking at the grossest pictures in the world together, just having a great time. He and his mother, they just connected passionately around discovering together the wonders of the human body. But science actually impacted Ethan's spirituality. And I'm sure most doctors, if not all of you, you've gotten to the point where you have found yourself in a conflict between your spirituality and the science of being a doctor, of anatomy, of humanity. And Ethan struggled with that, but you know what? He figured it out. He figured out that you can't be healthy without a healthy mind, a healthy spirit, and a healthy body. They all come together. And all of a sudden, that conflict went away for him. And I really think his greatest growth came in his understanding that faith and spirit are keenly personal and individual. The choice of belief or religion, it doesn't define a person. It doesn't define whether they're good or bad, or if they're correct or wrong. It's them. And that was Ethan. It didn't matter what you believed. It didn't matter what your religion was. It didn't matter what you thought. If it mattered to you, it mattered to him. So the next thing is that we all know Ethan is still, he's a cerebral person. He thought a lot. He was a thinker. I think he used his creative writing and his poetry as a place for his poignant and very beautiful thoughts. It's a place that others could share what he was thinking. Ethan was also a teacher. He loved to teach. Ethan, if he knew something, he wanted you to know it. And I spoke with a few of his patients in the back this evening, and one of his patients told me that he was trying to explain a medical concept to them, and he ripped a piece of the paper off and drew it. And she said, and then I got it. And she gave it to her daughter so that that picture could help her to understand it too. That's what Ethan did. He found the way to take things that are really complex, anatomy, biology, and figure out a way to explain it in a way that all of us could understand. And he loved that teaching. So, and I know I'm going on, but Lori Jordan and I don't think we were ever surprised by Ethan's medical schooling, his training, and his family palliative care choices. From Jefferson right on to here, KP, Vallejo, to his long-term palliative care calling, he always sought out like-minded people. There is no surprise that Ethan thrived here. No surprise, because you guys are here. He had many places that he was thinking about going for his residency program, and he said, how can I go anywhere else? It was the people here in this room. It was the like thinking, the people with the same intensity of purpose and helping the individual. That's why he came here. And you all need to know that. You thank us for us giving you our son for 3 years. We thank you for what you had that made him say, I am coming here, because I cannot see that he would have succeeded as well anywhere else. And my wife's telling me that's good. So I'm going to stop. Thank you all very, very much. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this point, if anyone else would like to say a few words about Ethan, the microphone's open.
I'm gonna go up there. Hi, everybody. Thank you for family. Thank you for coming out from Pennsylvania and all that good stuff to celebrate that joyous day. I'm Marcella. I'm an L&D. We loved Ethan. However, the last delivery, I guess it's the centering thing. They do the centering thing now with families, and they start out and they kind of, but he had, I want to say it was probably his last delivery he had up there. Young gal, huffing and puffing, blowing the house down, you know, the whole big bad wolf stuff. Did you call my doctor? Yeah, I called your doctor, he's on his way up. Sure enough, Ethan came up. However, the grandma, looked at him and about fell over because he's so young. And I mean, the residents are younger than my kids now. And she was like, you can't possibly be her doctor. And he was. And he's such a genuine good soul. He's all like, well, what's your concern? She's like, they're like, you're too young and you're a man. You don't even know what pain is. You don't know, you know, the whole blah, 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 blah. And he's just, by the time this baby was born, he not just had this beautiful delivery with this wonderful patient he's been following, who I just was so grateful that I was part of. But he wooed those two ladies, and they were loving him, and they were hugging him, and you know, there were pictures, and that's just a great time, you know. afterward, I do the perinatal bereavement as well on our unit. And, you know, it's a sad part. It's very difficult. I never chose it. It chose me. I'm very thankful that I have the opportunity to work with such wonderful staff in a hospital facility that supports this and our families. And one of the last things our conversation was palliative care. You know, and he says, Marcella, you know, like when you're done. I said, it's not that you're done, it's how you're, I actually told him was scientific medicine has nothing to offer patients sometimes. You know, we can't change diagnoses, we can't change horrible outcomes and tragedies. He gets that, we get it, we all get that. But what we did get was, I was telling him was how the care, your compassion, your empathy, you're sitting down, your bedside manner, you don't teach that, you get that, you know. I know he's an old soul, but to me he was just a big warm soul because he sat there with those families and he sat there with the nurses and joked with us. We wanted him to go to our light, not the palliative care light, that was our joke, but he was like determined to do palliative care, and we're like, but you would be so good at this. So it was grateful that he got to bring in some of these new members, and I was very privileged, so was my colleagues up there on the second floor. So thank you guys.
My name is Mike Mason. I'm the physician in charge of palliative and geriatric medicine in Napa-Solano. And I had the opportunity, I've been teaching residents for over 20 years, from Southern California with Dr. O'Connell to coming up here. I've met 100, maybe more residents. I've never met a soul or a spirit like Ethan, never in my life. And just like everybody, there's not words to express how much love he's given us. And I'm a better person as a result of it. But, you know, I'll never forget 2 years ago on your birthday, and Ethan and I were in the medicine call room, and Ethan said, it's my dad's birthday today. He said, let's give him a call. And we called, and we talked on the phone, and we'd never met. And Ethan told me, you remind me of my dad. And I still feel that, and I feel in a very little way that I've lost a son. I've lost a son. I didn't have Ethan for 29 years, but you know, there's a part of me that's missing now. And I'm sure everybody feels the same. And I told Ethan after the graduation, and he knew all along, I said, Ethan, we have a job for you. And I told Dr. Walker, no matter what happens, when he's done, we're hiring Ethan Sellers. We're not going to let him go. And that's the impact he made on every single person who's here today. And again, I know I don't need to tell you guys, but we love you for having Ethan and for sharing Ethan with us. We love you. And thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Zaria. I was Dr. Sellers, one of his first clients and friends. And I've had him ever since I started middle school, which is, 3 years ago. And he helped me through a lot, and he helped me through depression, and he was the one that got me out of that. And I just got a stuffed pig from the thing. It reminded me of him because he liked animals a lot. But I've never met a doctor like him. And like I said, he helped me through so much, and I'm so glad that I got to have him in my life. And I remember every time I would come to see him for one of my appointments, I would always come so early, and he would always get in the room so late. But it was okay because it was all worth it, and we talked for 30 minutes all the time, over the time that I was supposed to be done for the appointment. And it was just long talks about what had happened in my life from the last time that I saw him. And I just met his parents today, which it was really nice because he always talked about you guys with so much love. And I got snot all over his dad, which was okay. I didn't write anything down, but yeah. Oh, and I wanted to share a story about the last time I saw him. Doctors always have to like ask you if you're using drugs or alcohol, and I always say no. But this time I joked to him that I was an alcoholic, and he said, just make sure it's vodka. Which I'm so glad that I could joke to a doctor like that. But yeah, thank you.
My name is Helen, and I was one of the senior residents that worked with Ethan, and I just had to share this story. So we were working on the hospital-based service during my last year, and it was one of those days where he was working in the clinic, and so he texted me after his clinic, which is actually way after 5:30. He was still in the office, finishing up, and I was almost about to leave, but he said, "Oh, can you come down to sign out?" Because he wanted to know what happened with the patients. And so when I walked into his office, and he was actually standing up, sort of like a statue, with like tears just streaming down his face. And I paused at the door, and I was like, "Are you okay, Ethan?" And awakened out of his reverie, he turned to me. He paused, and then he said, "It really is a privilege what we get to do." And we sat down, and he told me about the last patient encounter that he had, a young woman who had come to see him and who had opened up about her depression. He had stayed longer listening to her and talking to her, and he was behind on all of his notes, and he hadn't written down anything from the rest of clinic, and here he was just taking time to reflect and think about his patient and the great privilege he had to bear witness to suffering and be one of the few people this young woman felt safe discussing the darkness of her life. And he just shed tears for her that she may or may not know. And he really did care for his patients and his coworkers. He always had an encouraging word to say on HBS. He would check in with each member of the team. It was always busy, it was always hard. And often I would overhear his feedback, and it usually would just be a pep talk or encouragement. And I learned from him that feedback need not be scary or negative. And he made it so that it was always easy for him to give feedback to the interns and the people that we were working with. He really has left his mark on his footprints in all of our hearts. And I think in reflection, I feel like having known him, I can never be quite the same. Ethan loves so many people, and I think I, in comparison, feel like I have loved so much less. And he taught me that there is so much more meaning in life to be lived by being like him, who is so warm, accepting, generous, open, and so free with his embrace. He emanated joy through his face and with his smile, and he was not afraid of getting close to people. And I think from now it's just I've learned from him to love more freely and to hug more tightly. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mildred. I'm one of the MAs that got the chance to work with Dr. Sellers. I would greet him in the morning and say, Dr. Sellers, I'm working with you. He'd be, oh, I'm with you today, you know, a relief. And he would say, oh, stop it, call me Ethan. Don't call me Dr. Sellers. So to help me a little bit, I wrote as if I was talking to him. I said, hey, my friend. Hey, I said, I really don't know where to start. Dr. Sellers, you are one of a kind. I'm so happy that I got a chance to work with you before you graduated. Out of all the physicians I worked with, you are the most respectful physician that I've ever worked with. You can't buy respect. You had a spirit out of this world, and beside your hugs, you would give a high five that would literally break my arms, but I felt the spirit come through my body. Thank you for just being you, and we'll all miss you, and we'll keep you in our hearts.
My name is Allison, and I was faculty here for a couple of the years that Ethan was here, and he also joined a writing group that I sponsored and hosted for the first year of residency. And of course, Ethan was a wonderful writer, and I wanted to share a brief poem that I wrote that he gave me a bunch of feedback on and actually edited it substantially. And of course, it's immeasurably better than it was. But the poem I chose because he touched it, and also because it's about a code. If you're running the code as a physician, as a doctor, but it's really about how we process the pain that we see on a daily basis as physicians, and about learning what to do with difficult things that happen to us when all we're trained to do is stuff it, as Dr. Walker was saying, and how to let yourself feel and love and let your heart break. So, this is Ethan's edit. Bright lights, Cupid's arrow found its target, and it quivers. 2 defibrillators, shock 1 delivered. Let your heart break so it can start again. Tunnel vision, hold your breath, push the air down. Ribs, trident cracked, someone passed the adrenaline in an ET tube, shock 2 delivered. Let your heart break so it can start again, so you can feel again. A candle flickers. Ferryman flipped a coin, and here you are, strung upside down like a T-wave on a high wire. Shock 3 delivered. Let your heart break so it can start again, so you can feel again, so you can love again, love again, love again.
Hi everyone, I'm Van, I'm Ethan's partner, and I was thinking about him today. We had a really hard surgery this morning and a couple of unexpected findings, and I thought, gosh, like Ethan would ask, so how was surgerizing today? Did you guys do anything great? And he would have loved to hear about it and just listen about my day. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were having a couple squabble like we do, and he asked me, Van, what do you believe in? And I said, I don't know what you mean. Can you tell me what you believe in? And he said, I believe that none of this matters. There's enough suffering in the world. All I can do is be kind and do my best to ease someone else's pain. And that really resonated with me. And
Ethan had an intense passion for life, people, medicine, of course his car, the Miata, you guys all know. He was a gifted physician who truly listened to his patients and felt that sometimes that was the best medicine. On his last night, Ethan connected deeply with one of our good friends and was able to give him comfort during a difficult time in his life. An infectious personality and radiated so much positivity and joy everywhere that he went. Ethan always knew how to make me laugh and crack a smile even when I didn't want to, and I wanted to be down and negative. We spent a lot of our time outdoors, hiking, exploring, traveling the world a lot. He loved being by the ocean, tide pooling, we'd search for sea glass together. And I think of him often when I think of sea glass. Over the years, he's patiently smoothed out some of my rougher edges and challenged me in ways that others could not. Above all, Ethan loved me fiercely and never missed an opportunity to show it. Ethan was a bright light that permeated everyone around him. There's no replacing a spirit like his. All I can do is live with his enthusiasm and love fearlessly like he did. Thank you.
My name is Daniel Chua. I'm one of the palliative care physicians that Ethan worked with. And, you know, it's true when they say that the things that people regret are the things left undone and the words left unsaid. And for me, I regret not telling Ethan how we really felt about him. He had shared multiple times how he was inspired by the palliative care team during his residency. What I regret not telling him was that he was my inspiration. I've done this job for 5 years. I've witnessed anguish I never thought existed. I have walked out of patients' rooms saying, "No more. I have no more. I have nothing more to give for the next patient." But I remember since meeting Ethan, all I had to do was remember how enthusiastic he was, how caring he was, how genuine he was during our visits with our patients. And I found myself drawing from that. All I had to do was remember how he looked with our patients, and I found that I had more to give. So I think it's not too late. I don't want to regret not saying these words. I hope Ethan somehow still hears this, that Ethan, you're the best of us, buddy.
My name is Chuck Fitzgerald, and I haven't done this before, and I've been to a few of these, as you can tell by my age. I just wanted to share how I met the good doctor about 3 years ago when he got here. I had a pretty serious heart condition and was hospitalized, intensive care, all that stuff. And when I first was being treated, my wife showed up, naturally, and she said, "This is your new doctor." And of course you're laying there and you're semi out of it. I look over, he's standing there looking at me with a smile on his face. And I said to her, I said, "Who is he?" She said, "He's your new doctor. I fired your other doctor." I said, I'm laying here dying and you fired my doctor. I said, "Who is the guy?" "His name is Ethan Sellers, Dr. Sellers." I said, "Okay, so he's my doctor now." She said, "Yeah." I said, "How do the rest of the people feel about it?" She says, "They're okay." So he started chatting with me, and she said, "He's been here almost the whole time you've been here." I said, "Oh." So I started chatting a little serious with him then, and he said, "You know I'm an intern. Do you want me to be your doctor?" And I said, "Is this a warning?" And I knew what an intern was, but I thought, that's kind of an odd question to ask me. I'm laying here dying. Well, you're not dying. You're going to be okay. So after that, it was a normal recovery and everything. It wasn't as bad as it started off. And so I went to his office for my first visit. And I went up to the girl and she says, "You're here to see who?" And I said, "The doctor," and I couldn't think of his name. And so I said, "You got the paperwork there. Don't you know who he is?" And she says, "Yeah, we have you in the computer, your name." And I said, "He's kind of got part of a beard. He's a little guy." And I said, "He wears these kind of like leprechaun pants." She says, "Dr. Sellers." I said, "That's it. That was it." So I don't mean this to be a joke. It's just the way it happened. So I go in and he's very friendly and we chat. And he starts asking me the questions on the computer. And the first one out of his mouth was, "So how old are you?" And I said, "You got my entire record in front of you on the screen. You're asking me how old I am. It's kind of scary. You know how old I am." He says, okay, let's get on with it. I know how old you are. He says, "Do you do this? Do you do that?" He says, "Do you use alcohol?" I said, "I drink it, yes." And he said, "How much?" I said, "I have a couple of martinis a night." "Keep doing it." He says, "Whatever you're doing, don't stop." I said, "Okay." So then I heard about his grandfather. He told me about him. He said, "You're just like him." I said, "Is that good?" He says, "Oh yeah, I love him very much." So we became really good friends. And I would shoot him emails, and I kept trying to take him out to lunch because I liked him that much. I wanted to socialize with him. And I never could get him to go to lunch. So over the 3-year period, I told him, I said, "You won't go to lunch with me because I'm a patient. And you don't fraternize with your patients." He says, "That's not it at all." I said, "All right, whatever you say." So then I get this letter telling me that he's not my doctor anymore, he's leaving. So I shot him an email and told him, "You can't do this. Where are you going? I'll go there too." And he said, "No, you don't understand." And he explained what he was doing. So I said, "Well, now we can go to lunch." And he said, "Yeah," because we wanted to meet Van. We had heard so much about her. So he decided that maybe we should go to dinner. I said, "Okay, we can go to dinner. How do you feel about Chevy's?" And he says, "Well," he says, "you talk about these little places in Benicia. I thought we'd go to one of them." I said, "Okay." So my wife made a reservation in Benicia, and we go there, and naturally Van is there. I get out of there just under $300 later, and now I know why he wanted to go to Benicia. So that's the kind of fun he had, and he could relate to me that way. We had never been out together anywhere else. It was always in his office. And that stuck with me. So losing him is major to me because at my time in life, I don't go out and make friends quite like that easily, and he was so easy to make friends with. Even my wife loved him, and she wasn't going to see him that I know of. So, and he had all these tests in the hospital. I'm surprised the hospital didn't stop him. I had every test here they have, every test. except one. And that was the one I told him we'd never do. And that was kind of funny because he got a kick out of that. I said, we're not going to do hide the finger. He said, you're on. We'll never do that. I said, okay. So with that in mind, I have a pleasure to meet his parents and hope to see Van in the future. Nothing else I have to say except we really love him. Thank you.
My name's Kathy Heilig. I'm a midwife here in Vallejo and Napa-Solano. And Ethan felt like a son to me, as though I'm sure many of you experienced Ethan as well. And one day he came and he told me, I'm gonna do palliative care. And I said, Ethan, that's perfect. He really enjoyed doing births. And I said, you're gonna midwife the other side of life. This is a perfect fit for you. And I was really excited for him. And I was wrestling when I heard about this at work the other day. I was really wrestling with what the purpose of this was, Kelsey, right? And I right away connected it to palliative care. And I thought, what is he doing? And as I hear everyone's stories and I hear his parents talk about him, I recognize what he's doing is a master class in love and palliative care. He's holding all of our hands through this experience. He sounded kind of done. I mean, he's done everything he wanted to do. And this is sort of an amazing gift that he's giving us. He sort of embodied love. Not sort of, he did. And it's amazing how many people got that. And that's how I'm gonna hold it. Thanks.
And I'm one of the palliative care nurses. And through the 5 years that I've been here, we've had a lot of physicians, residents pass through, decide maybe it's not their calling. Typically, us that have been doing palliative care for a while in hospice, and I've heard other people say it, we know right away who's gonna really be good. They're empathetic, they're compassionate, and they're real. And that's everything that he was. Remember one time in the emergency room, and I had a consult, and he was in the emergency room. And I came down, and he said, well, what do you think? And I thought, wow, I'm just a nurse, and he's asking me what I think. And so we collaborated a little bit, and he said, I think I'm gonna like this palliative care thing. And I said, I think you're gonna be good at it. Thank you.
The last time I spoke to Ethan was after I presented him at graduation 10 days ago. He, was a special guy. I got to take him out to lunch 3-4 times a year. As his advisor, I look forward to giving him feedback formally. I'd take him to a restaurant, Wences in Walnut Creek, or Pleasant Hill. He liked that place. And it was like talking to an old friend. We had great conversations, and he taught me about life, and I taught him about, I had not much to give back as far as feedback. And so we developed, a friendship with those conversations and hanging out. That's how I seen it, as hanging out with a friend. During our graduation ceremony, I had mentioned that Ethan had one more hug to give before he graduated, and I was wrong. He never gave a hug. He embraced every single time. You saw when he walked up there, he didn't hesitate. He put his arms around me and hugged me, and so I thought I'd get him back. I read a statement from one of his patients. It was feedback that he had, and how great he was, how comprehensive, how he was able to communicate to the family and bring information in a way that could be understood by the common person. And he cried. And during that time, he was up there. I was trying to turn away so I wouldn't cry. And of course, I saw him. And I had to take a moment and pause. And so I was like a bit embarrassed. And so afterwards, I seen Ethan in dinner immediately afterwards. And he came up to me laughing. He says, "Ha!" He said, "We made each other cry." And that was the last conversation I had with Ethan. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angela, and I work here in the lab. I just wanted to say that I'm very sorry for your loss, but your son exuded so much spirit and so much love and warmth. My first encounter with him was about a year ago on the floor. I had just finished drawing a patient. He had come in, and he had come in to console the family. And the love and the warmth that he gave his family, I felt like I was the family. But I now understand where his calling was, because he exuded that. And I'm still at a loss for words, and I had to come up and I had to share each and every one how this man touched everyone's life, and I see that and I feel it. His spirit is here, but I also wanted to say that your son was a wonderful young man, and he is gone too soon, but he's not, because he's in each and every one of us. I remember after he had consoled the family, I walked out and then he walked out. And I told him, "Don't ever change who you are." I said, because of what you told that family, I felt like he was talking to me also. He embraced them, the spirit, the warmth, the love. That was him. And that's what I'm gonna always take with him. He would see me in the hallways, here in the MOB, and he would say, "Hey, what's up? How's the blood flowing today?" But he would give you a hug, so I felt very special to be able to get that hug from him also. But just a wonderful spirit, and that's what I'm going to take and remember from your son. To see the love that this man gave to everybody this evening, I had to be here today, so I just wanted to say thank you.
My name is Lai Torado, and we know Ethan. We were blessed to know Ethan outside of Kaiser. He, when he first started his residency here, he came to our gym and he worked out with us. Wow. he touched, I can tell that he touched everybody here, but outside of the box, you know, people have personalities, people are different when they're in different places, but from what I can tell and from what I hear from everyone here, he was the same here as he was everywhere else. I remember specifically a time I said, "Hey Ethan, how was your day?" And he said, "Well, you know, no, knee deep in placentas today." He had a golden smile, a golden heart, and I kept wanting to get up here and say something, and I couldn't put together what I wanted to say, and this poem kept coming up in my head. I believe it's by Robert Frost, and it's called "Nothing Gold Can Stay." And it goes, if I can remember it, nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaves a flower, but only so an hour. So leaf subsides to leaf, and Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down today, nothing gold can stay.
My name's Coach Reem. Sorry, my voice is a little messed up, but I wanted to get up here and also talk about, we're hearing patients and colleagues and coworkers talk about how good and how blessed he was, and this was his place. I just want to let everybody know that that strongness, like she said, even followed him outside of here. He came to the gym. It wasn't his calling, but he came in. Sorry, he came in always. He always came in with that same smile. He hasn't been at our gym for about a year or so now, but he's still part of the family and he's still touching us very deeply. And that's why we wanted to make sure we came out and showed support and say thank you to you guys. So thank you.
My name is Carrie Lenz. I actually went to Lycoming with Ethan. So I'm newer to California. I only wish that I would have known that we lived so close. But I can tell you that Ethan gave hugs even back then. And he will surely be missed, and he touched so many lives nationwide. I can tell you a lot of people in Pennsylvania are really feeling for you guys, and just thank you for everything, and your thoughts and prayers are with everyone over there too.
So I would like to just say a few words in closing. One on behalf of, or at the request of Lori. Ethan was a plant lover, and there's a box of succulents and plants here that if you would like to take one home, we don't have one for everybody obviously, but if you'd like one, those are available. Second thing that I would like to say is I consider myself fortunate. I get to be the captain of this incredibly talented team of faculty and residents and students that come through here. And I sometimes get credit for more than I think I do. So I appreciate the gratitude for helping to set this up. It was truly a team effort. Elizabeth Klyer, our coordinator, put a tremendous amount of effort into it and filled all of the gaps that I would have left. We also had our IT team contributing, had Dr. Walker's support, Kathleen Araya upstairs helped coordinate a lot of this. I'm sure I'm missing other names, but part of my personality is I don't like to take credit for things that I only partially contributed to. Next thing I'd like to say is thank you to everybody who came out to support Ethan's memory and Ethan's family. Van, Jordan, Lori, Bill, I hope you feel like you have a family here in this KP family. If there is ever anything we can do to help support you, or a phone call or an email or whatever, or text away, and are always happy to help with that. And in closing, it's my hope that in this tragedy, through all of the words that we heard today, that we will all go out of here and love a little more deeply, live a little more openly, and try to be a little bit more like Ethan. So thank you.